Okay, we're back again. Sorry about that. I have to break and start the videos again. This is a little bit of the Prussian that we're using. Don't want to get too brown. I want it to look a little bit blue. We'll stay with the blue, more blue down here. And after I put the color in, I'll rinse my brush and I'll soften that edge. And you kind of have to do that quickly. And that moves the color out a little bit into the petal. And we're going to put a little bit on this side, close to the flower center. And a little bit underneath the petal. And we're going to separate this petal. I'll pull this in a little closer for you to see these flowers. You can see the pencil a little better. Around the flower center. And this one is behind. Rinse my brush and I'll soften that edge a little bit. Just don't want a hard edge to form. You can only do a couple of petals before it starts to dry too much. We will darken these later. I'm going to pick up a little bit of my dioxazine purple, or you can use red violet mixed with your Prussian and you'll get a purple. And we'll put a little purple tint over here on this petal. And put a little bit up here. And you can also, when you mix your purple, you can mix it to a pinky purple or a blue purple. And that would be your choice. My dioxazine has a little more of the pink tone into it. Because I have so much blue, I let it be the pinky purple. Okay, if you're having trouble softening, you can moisten a petal first. I'll do this one back here. You can wet just the petal you want to work on. And then you can pick up your shadow color and it will soften for you. But you also, it will carry quite a bit further. So if you didn't want a lot of paint, it kind of moves things around a little bit softer. Okay. Alright, we also have some cerulean tints. Now cerulean is that beautiful sky blue color. So I'm just cleaning an area on my palette. I'm going to take out some cerulean. And I'll add some accents on these petals right here with some pretty blue. And that will be reflected because it'll be over in these flowers as well. Okay, then I'll just soften it into the petal. And I'm going to put a few highlights. Yellow is bright. Make sure you thin your yellow out. It's quite strong. Want a little bit of yellow on these. Keeping the edges of the petals still white. I'm adding a little bit of yellow in there. Also, while we are doing yellow, I'm going to go down to the vase. And I'm going to find my vase and wet it with a little bit of water around my shapes. And I'm going to take that yellow, thin it down with some water, and I'm going to put some yellow. Now you see the resist because I put masking fluid in there. Okay, it doesn't want to take. While we've put the masking fluid, it's going to keep the paper white. And I'm just going to pull that back a little bit, but I just want to have a little white. But I want that to dry so that my other layers of color will stay. So that's just a little area of highlight. Okay, we're going to take some more of this yellow. We're going to move it around. I'm going to go up, pull this back so you can see the whole picture. Whoa, you know where I'm going. Okay, I'm going to go up to my little daisy up here, and I'm going to put a little yellow in that flower. Going to put a little bit of yellow. There's a flower in the middle there. I didn't put it on, but it is there. There's a little yellow flower here. Just putting a wash of this yellow on some of these little flowers. We'll come back with some other tones, but just helping me find my way around the painting with the yellows. Okay, over on this side, we have a little yellow center on that one. And on this flower, the top portion of this flower is yellow. And we'll even put a little bit of yellow on our rose. Kind of the rose is swirling in a circular motion. Can you see that? We will probably cover some of that yellow, but we're going to leave that be in there. Okay, I think I've gotten all the yellow areas with a little yellow. Okay. Now you can see how that really faded down here. I might put just a little bit more in there. Just on the one. Yellow will dry very, very, very pale, very soft. Okay, I'm going to put, I wanted to show you how on these leaves with a pointed brush, your round needs to be pointed, it has to be tapped off on a paper towel but moist. And we're going to stroke in the same direction with water on the brush, and then you lift and stroke and it lifts, and that gives you a little tiny highlighted vein area. And that can happen anytime you need a little accent of light. Let's say between two petals and they meld together, you can moisten the one and highlight one. Okay, here's two leaves. It is dark under there, so I can see it, but if I wanted it more visible, I could lighten that edge just slightly. So that's a neat little trick to do. Okay, we do have one sword leaf up here I wanted to address. It's more in the golden tone, so I used my yellow oxide. And it goes behind this flower and down into the bouquet. Don't want to get it on that edge. And then I added just a little bit of my pine green. Just to accent that with a little bit of green. Just to have a little extra color in there. Okay, I think we're going to work at some of the flowers at the top. Let's work on some of these purple flowers. Taking out my dioxazine purple. Now it is a bright purple, so I put just a speck of burnt umber into it, which dulls it a little. Now don't get it brown, so you do want to have some bright spots. So I'm going to keep this pretty purple. This cluster up at the top here is, I don't know, lupine or whatever. Flower has lots of little petals coming out. So I just make dabbles. You want to connect the dabbles, but that's how I get my shape. I just dabble a little bit. And it can lean over onto that leaf. Okay. Don't want it on the flower. Now I take my water brush and we'll add some, connect a few. You can put a couple little baby ones out on the tips if you wanted to. I'm keeping this in the distance, so I'm going to diffuse with a little bit of water. I am softening it out into the, it just floats out into the background. Okay, down below it'll have a little more pigment. Down in here it'll disappear. So I'll pick up a little more of my purple and just let that flow into the wet paint. Okay, and we're gonna, there's a little tiny one below it. Right here, you're gonna do the same dabbing motion. Right in here. Pick up a little extra dark in the base so it looks like it's tucked into the flowers. And I'll diffuse the edges just a little bit with some water. If it gets too wet, which this one seemed to get a little bit wet, there, like that. Okay, that little soften, see how it just softens that edge? I can zoom in so you can see that clearly. See how soft and washy that is? That's a good thing. When things are not in the focal point, you want them to be able to fade into the background a little, be a little bit quieter, whispers of color. There's another small one up here. And I look at my painting as if it were actors on a stage. And not everybody can be the center of interest. Not everybody can be the star of the show. So these are a little softer, less important. The leading lady, the leading men are up in the front. Okay, I'm going to soften these edges a little so this whispers away. And I do this whispering not to everything, but to things I want to fade a little bit into the background. Pick up a little bit more of the dioxazine, tap it in. Okay, we have two more flowers here. These are also the same color tone. Started with the diox, toned it with just a pinprick of my burnt umber. And this one we'll put in. toned petals first. And then I picked up a little bit more just straight purple because it's a little brighter. Excuse me. Now I put that little white edge there with my masking, so I'm hoping that shows up nicely. And I'm painting in this little purple area. The center is going to have some yellow in it, so I'll put that in so I don't lose it. Get puddles of water, just touch with your paper towel. Too much water, you get a swimming pool. And we don't need that. Okay, I'm going to let that dry, and I'll come back to that for some extra shading later. I like to do some of the details later. And we'll put in some dark petals over here. And leaving little white spots around the painting is a good thing. It's just not everything is so dark. You can intentionally leave them, or sometimes it happens by accident. Pale lavender. Picking up a little bit more vibrant purples. Just love the way watercolor just moves around and does interesting things. So you're not able to get exactly the same thing every time, which is a wonderful thing in art. You don't want everybody to have the same painting. Okay, a little bit of yellow in that center. Okay, there is a blue flower up here. We can do that one with Prussian. This is a very impressionistic flower. I'm going to start out with very thin, faded cerulean, very sheer, so that it will soften into the background. And I'm not even sure what these flowers were. I was just looking at color masses. They were just so pretty. So we'll put in the blue, and I'll probably let that dry. Maybe I'll drop in just a little bit of my Prussian around the center. Let that diffuse a little bit. See if that'll run into the flower a little. Okay, we're going to stop here, and I'll be back in 1 minute.